Anthony Mazzocchi is vice president of the Oil, Chemical, and Atomic Workers Union in the United States. He was a pioneer in the fight against chemical hazards in the workplace, and for many years was a lone voice in his effort to alert society to the dangers faced by workers.
You could build a brand new plant today, have it designed by the finest engineers, make it pollution proof. In a few months or a few years, that plant will be spitting out and belching out what an old plant belches out. Because the crucial fact is that no employer will do what's necessary to maintain a plant. And that's keep it labor intensive, to maintain it, by maintaining the equipment and keeping sufficient operating personnel on. And that's the secret. Every worker can tell that things were better a while ago because we had more people doing the type of things that are necessary to maintain these facilities. An oil refinery was safer 25 years ago simply because that refinery was brought down each year to 6 to 8 weeks for maintenance. Today, they're kept on stream 2, 3 years until they either break down or they have to really turn them down to repair them. But in the meantime, they're emitting very caustic substances and very polluting substances, which of course find their way through the community. The community subsidized that operation by virtue of the fact that they have increased morbidity and mortality in the community. Those death certificates are a subsidy for industry.
7 or 8 years ago in Toronto, we had a conference where workers came together and described precisely their own job environments, how little they knew about their job environment. But we could not interest anybody in the subject. I thought that, well, if workers raised a problem about an occupational health dilemma, there'd be somebody in some medical institution who would have the answer. And I started to trot around and found no one had answers, no one was interested, and the subject was enormous. There was no place to turn, neither the government nor private institutions. It was something we really had to shuffle along by ourselves. It was not a word in the media, in spite of the fact that there had been some incredible epidemics and disasters. It rarely surfaced. The situation, of course, now is different. The epidemics have percolated to the top, the bodies are more visible. The problem is addressed more now, but the question of solutions is about the same now as it was when I first perceived it.
Is the work environment getting better, or is it getting worse?
No, it's got to get worse. You see, I mean, at first, my own inclination was it was an aberration. It was a dirty plant, or it was malicious people, or someone was lazy, plant management. Now I understand that it's integrally tied to the production process, that the drive to increase productivity, which is in Western industrial society, is the key component. With that must go an increased disease rate, increased cancer. The only growth product left in this part of the world, in U.S. and Canada, is cancer. It's growing at 5% a year. The GMP should only be so lucky.
That's depressing.
But that's integrally related to the fact that productivity comes at the expense of the diminution of, it comes at the expense of workers. You diminish the workforce, you diminish maintenance. Most factories are nothing but a bucket of bolts. And the emissions take place all the time to the air and the water. And of course, now the workers are just the early warning system. They get impacted first, but the community gets impacted second. The workers can only struggle in their various installations to attempt to correct the problem. There is no easy blueprint. The first part of the struggle was to show workers that this was not a unique occurrence, that it was happening right across the country. Secondly, it was to mobilize people to fight for fundamental rights, the right to know, which is a fight that we haven't won yet. The right to know what we work with. I mean, we leave all our rights behind when we walk through a plant gate. Most people don't understand that any right that you hear talked about doesn't exist in a factory. When you walk into a factory, the owner of that factory has a right to do anything he wants to you, your body. He could extract blood from you, not tell you why he's doing it, do it as often as he wishes. You have one choice, that's to quit. But you have no right to say, you can't mutilate my body. We have plants where people are cystoscoped twice a year. Anybody's been through a cystoscope once in their lifetime has an experience they won't soon forget. To have it done as a diagnostic technique, not even tell a worker what was going on, is incredible. Turned out there was a bladder cancer epidemic, and the doctors who were using the cystoscopic procedure were not only diagnosing but treating, and then sending the workers right back to the plant where they were back into the environment of a bladder cancer inducement. That's the situation. So the fight of our right to know what we work with is still a fight that has not been won. We walk into a work environment, we know nothing about what's in that environment. Chemicals are coded. We want to know what's the real name, the generic name of the chemical. Companies refuse to tell us. How much of it, which of it is toxic? How toxic is it? How much am I breathing? These rights don't exist. That's the struggle. We have to, that's the first step.
We represent workers at a beryllium factory. We've clearly identified the nature of disease in that factory. We know the workers who are in an advanced state of disease. This is in a highly depressed mining area in Pennsylvania, Hazleton, Pennsylvania. The mines have been depleted. The plant was built there purposely because there was a big labor pool, and when the workers were confronted with the fact that you remain in that facility, the chance of you living greatly diminished. You know what the answer was? Where in the hell are we going to go? We're going to end up in the South Bronx in New York on a welfare roll? The guy's making he's making about $6.20 an hour. He's forced to stay. And that's a myth that you think a person has a choice. It should be a fundamental right for any human being to be able to produce a product without putting a piece of his life in that product. A petroleum worker should not have to refine gasoline that's used in cars without having a cancer rate higher than his fellow worker. It's the law in the United States of America. It says that every workplace shall be free from all hazards, and that by virtue of work, there should be no diminution of your health or your life. That's the law. That's why I say law is a mockery, because there isn't a single factory that I know of where those conditions exist. We're entering a period now where what we do not only impacts us, but for the first time in history, is starting to impact those who are not yet born. The genetic effects are beginning to show up and beginning to grow, and our ability to reproduce the race, in my opinion, with this recent evidence on fertility, I think puts us at a point in history where we really have to sharply address the problem of what happens in these factories.